Hello, everybody. So you got a lot more folks joining. My name is Daryl. I'm here with Raul. We'll be your moderators for our next session. Welcome to Community Online Academy, hosted by Next Jump Perks at Work. Happy to have you join us for our next session. We'll be kicking off at 1 p.m. Eastern Time with the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Caleb Wright. And attitude reflects leadership. Glad you can join us for this session. As Raul mentioned, we've got two audiences. We've got some of you joining us via webinar, and then we also have a YouTube live stream going on as well. So we'll have two groups of folks attending the session today. So happy to have you all. We've got the chat feature going that we're monitoring here on the webinar, and then the live stream also has a chat that we're monitoring. And as Chief Wright does his presentation, if you have questions that come up, please feel free to put questions into the chat, and Raul and I will monitor those, and we'll do our best at the end during the Q&A to get to as many questions as we can. But happy to have you joining us for the Community Online Academy. We run this every Thursday, basically 19 hours of sessions that we're running, and we've got folks attending from all over the world. Happy to have you to join us with us. And as Raul mentioned, love to see where everyone's from. So please feel free to go ahead and put in the chat where you're calling in from. And Pete Ruiz, I see you. Yep, I remember meeting you at Next Jump back in 17. Good to have you join us. Hope you're doing well. For all where you are, it looks beautiful. Awesome to see where everyone's from. We've got folks from New Mexico and California, Texas, Europe. Great to have you all here. While we're waiting to start, I'll show this next slide here. Hopefully you can all see my screen. You know, if you've attended the Community Online Academy, you know that we're going to want your feedback. We run, like I mentioned, we run these every week, and we want to make these better each week. So to do that, we need your feedback. So at the end, we're going to take a few minutes after the Q&A and ask. Hopefully you'll stay and join us and give us some feedback. Hopefully you have the feedback app downloaded already, but if not, that's what this slide is for. So if you have the App Store, you can use a QR code on the left there to download the app. If you've got Android, you can use the QR code on the right. Just use your cameras and scan on that, and that'll take you right to the app download, and you can get it all set up so that that you're ready to go at the end of the session when we ask for feedback. And if you're not as familiar with feedback, I'll be doing a demo at the end too, and walk you through how to give feedback. Like I say, we find it very important to get your feedback, so we'll be asking for it.
Hey, Daryl.
Yes.
This is K Wright. I'm just checking in.
Hey, Chief Wright, how are you?
I'm doing good.
All right. I see we got you set up on the panelist screen here. Let me stop share for a second. There you are. I can see you now. Welcome.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, thanks,
so Chief
man.
Wright, are you
Thanks
going
for the invite.
We're thrilled to have you. Chief Wright, will you be showing slides from your location then? I think we might have. Having a few technical difficulties here. Chief Wright, you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I think we lost you for a second.
Yeah.
Chief, will you be showing the slides from your location?
No, I don't have any slides.
Okay, perfect. Okay, what we'll do is we will spotlight you, and that way the audience can see you. We've got folks joining us via webinar, but also via YouTube live stream. So we've got
Okay.
two groups of audiences, and both of them have access to chat, and we can monitor that as that comes in. And as those questions come in at the end during the Q&A, if you like, we can help pull some questions from the audience from those two sources.
Okay, sounds good.
Super.
I got two puppies that I don't know if they're gonna act right. Hey, calm down.
They sound excited to be here as well.
Yeah.
Chief, can you see the chat by chance?
I
The
can,
webinar
yeah.
chat? Okay. I just want to point that out because we've asked folks to put where they're calling in from, so you can scroll through there and get a peek at all the different locations folks are calling in from. We've got folks from Belgium and Nevada and California and all over the world.
Yeah, I see. Man, this is great. Man, yeah, good luck keeping up with this chat.
We'll do our best, and we'll try to get the questions all corralled and get as many as we can to you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I see we've got more folks joining. Please, as you join, love to see where you're calling in from. So please put that in the chat.
So how are you guys doing with the COVID-19 stuff? Is everybody teleworking?
We are about 99% of the company is working from home.
Okay.
So we've got folks spread over the country a little bit as well here. How about you in the Pentagon, Chief Wright? How's that?
Yeah, so I'm in the Pentagon about once a week, and I travel once a week, and then I work from home the other 3 days.
Oh, wow.
So it's been somewhat of an adjustment for me and for us in the building, but it seems to be working out, no problem.
Oh, wow. Chat's moving fast.
Yeah, I see.
We got Kevin Basic out there doing push-ups in his office.
Oh, is
All right,
it?
Kevin. All right, Kevin. Good to see you. Folks calling in from Rome. So again, welcome everyone just joining us for Community Online Academy. Welcome for our session with Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Caleb Wright. We'll be getting started here at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Thrilled to have you. We've got two audiences joining us, one via Zoom webinar and one via YouTube Live. So happy to have both groups with us. And we'll get started here in a little bit.
Hey, Daryl, just one correction is my first name is pronounced Khalith.
Khalith. Well, thank you. I apologize.
Also, for those attending, just let you guys know we have over 110 classes. Over 100 classes going on today in the COA community. Lots of classes for kids, adults, leadership development, learning language for the kids sessions, ballet and basketball workout, every Thursday going on. So I'm thinking on Friday we have the new course pages up and the new classes are up every Friday, so you can RSVP so you don't miss any additional sessions that's going on in the coming week. So keep an eye out for that. Yes, Nikki mentioned, are we all muted? Yes, this is a webinar session, so it's only mostly a one view session only. You will be able to see and hear the moderators and the presenters, but we will not be able to see or hear you. We had to switch up to a more of a moderating session because of the high volume of attendees that is coming in for this session. So just want to let you know, yes, we cannot see and we cannot hear you. We can chat with you. I know the chat will get really busy and you guys are going to populate your questions in there. So if we don't get to all the questions right away, I do apologize on that beforehand. Thank you, guys.
Chief Red, I'm seeing through in here, many people thanking you for your time spending with us today. We certainly appreciate it as well.
Oh yeah, no. Man, I'm pretty excited about this and glad we had an opportunity to connect.
There's a gentleman here, privilege of meeting you in 2016. COA Chiefs panel.
Ah, okay.
That's been Did you have a Mugs Cowboys mug there, Chief? Someone's commenting.
Yes.
There you go.
So I'll get equal amounts of hell and support on this mug.
It's probably kind of tough living and working in Washington, D.C., right?
No, not really, because there's tons of Cowboys fans.
Yeah, it's tough to be a Redskin fan these days, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, welcome again, everybody, to the Community Online Academy. We'll be getting started here at 1 p.m. Eastern Time in about 5 minutes. I'm going to share my screen again real quick. So those of you just joining, we will be asking for feedback at the end of the session. We run our Community Online Academy every week, every Thursday, and in order to make these better each week, we want your feedback. We need your feedback. So if you haven't downloaded the feedback app yet, we'd ask you to do that. Take a moment to do that now. And at the end of the session, after the Q&A, we'll ask you to take a couple minutes and give us some feedback. So I'll leave this slide up for a minute here before we start. question we commonly get is can I view the recordings? And the answer is yes. We will have the recordings posted on our site by about noon tomorrow, so that we record all our sessions. So we'll be able to visit our video library and check these videos out. Or if you want to tell a friend, they can check it out. Well, would you mind putting that site there in the chat for the videos?
Yes, I'll get those to you.
Okay, and have we joined Charlie and Megan to the panel yet?
Hello. Can you hear me? You see me? Charlie,
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi.
We can.
Hi, Chief Wright. How are you?
Hey, what's going on? It's great to see you guys.
Good to see you. Is our
I'm going to assume you're wearing pants under that, but
You'll never know.
Are you at home?
Get home today.
Yeah. Have you been going? Have you been going into? You're at the Pentagon now or no?
No, well, I still work in the Pentagon, so I've been working in the building 1 day a week. I travel 1 day a week and then work from home 3 days.
Oh wow!
I thought there was like no travel lockdown.
No, there's wiggle room with that, huh?
Yeah, just a tad. You know, we go from our Andrews Air Force Base straight to another Air Force installation, and we try to get out and see some of the most unique and important parts of our Air Force, and let our airmen know that we're still thinking about them, and really seeing how they're adjusting to this new normal.
Right. It looks like you have a big group. Everybody's excited for your talk.
Yeah. So where you guys? It looks like you guys are in the office.
We're in the office. We created a better setup this week. We set up a little studio here. Yeah, it's 4 of us in the New York office, and everybody else is working from home. 2 in our Boston office, 4, but we kind of created a small hub of our senior leadership that we're just keeping it very clean. We're very serious about the quarantine, but there's 4 of us kind of.
If you saw the walls around us, I mean, it literally looks like a war room in terms of how much information there's around us.
This has been crazy.
Yeah. So we're driving the entire strategy for the whole company out of these 2 hubs, mostly from New York. So the 4 of us, only 4 senior people, and everyone else's key cards even got locked out, so nobody could even come into the office. So.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah. Someone mentioned we're not 6 foot social, so we're like 4 of us family right now.
Yeah.
We're either going out together or staying together.
Good.
Get sick.
So
We get going?
it's past 1. So if we're ready to start, I'd like to welcome everybody to Community Online Academy. I'd like to turn it over to our co-CEO of NextJump for the introduction of our speaker, Megan Messenger.
Hi, everyone. This is Megan, and welcome. I have the honor of introducing Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, aka K. Wright. I think he has a bunch of other nicknames, but we call him K. Wright. We had the pleasure to meet K. Wright earlier this year at NextJump, and we have a lot of friends in the Air Force. We've been working with you guys for a long time, and we heard some rumors that you have a really excellent reputation. And so I think in some cases they consider you to be, I think they use the term GOAT, kind of like Tom Brady for the Patriots, but the GOAT, the greatest of all time in the role that you're in. So really high expectations, I think, set for this presentation today. But, one of the things I wanted to mention is, our way of being of service to those who serve has been through this COA program, this whole program that we built that you're all experiencing today, where Chief Wright, Kay Wright, will be sharing his talk today. One of the things in working with the Air Force, and I think we align in this, is the care for the families. For Next Jump, we care a lot about our employees and their families. I know for the Air Force and the airmen, and in particular, something that I've struggled with, and I think COA is going to help with, and is helping with, is actually for the families and in particular for the kids. When you think about kids' education, whenever I think about the military, something I've struggled with is how frequently you have to move around. Every 2 to 3 years you're moving. And so how hard that is for the families, I think, in particular moving schools. And so one of the privileges we have at Next Jump is access to some of the most amazing teachers in New York City, but just on the planet, that we've been able to amass to help our employees and their kids. And I've always struggled with, how do we help scale that to the military? How do we have to scale that to the Air Force? How do we give access to what we have? And so we can do that now through this virtual program. So it's a huge benefit of an awful thing like a pandemic, but it's forced us to create a virtual way of sharing this with our own employees, which now is being extended to really everybody. In particular, I think I'm excited for the impact it will have on the U.S. military and the Air Force. And you can sign up for math classes and Spanish classes and coding classes. You can even sign up for how to be a YouTuber. My son took a beatboxing class this morning. So I'm really excited about that. I'm hoping that all the airmen, and I think there's a lot of airmen on the call right now, we're watching this talk. So please join us, every Thursday for all these classes for the adults and for the kids. So anyways, without further ado, really excited to introduce Kay Wright.
All right. Hey, well, thanks, Charlie and Daryl and Ralph for this possible. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to speak to this audience. I'm hoping this is a mixture of airmen and folks that I've served with, as well as folks who I may not have, who may have no military or Air Force affiliation. I'll be honest with you. I don't think this topic is groundbreaking, but I do think it's important. And you may be saying to yourself, attitude reflects leadership. And essentially this lesson is a bit about the importance of the leader as a role. And again, it seems relatively simple, but if everybody was doing it, we probably wouldn't have to talk about it. So, and what I'll cover is just a simple leadership philosophy that I use, centered around the leader as a role model, something that's worked for me. So I have almost years in the United States Air Force now. I'll be retiring here this fall. And this has worked for me for the better part of my career. So I'll talk a little bit about that in the three components of my leadership philosophy to the leader as a role model. And then I want to cover just about characteristics. Now, as we all know, there are tons and tons of leadership qualities and characters and things that we live by. But I want to cover just a few of that I believe to be important about modeling behavior as a leader. About it had to be 20 years ago now. I was a leadership instructor for one of our Air Force academies. We call them non-commissioned officer academy, but it's basically a mid-level management leadership school. And I'm sure we have at least a few of our what we call professional military education instructors listening right now. And this was probably in 2001. And at the time we had a lesson called leader influence. And mostly it was about the different types of power that you wield as a leader: referent power, your charisma and whatnot, connection power, the power you have to influence people based on who you know and who you can connect with. Position power. So some people use position power. the position or the title that they have to influence people. But what I found, I stumbled in, and this was the first the movie Remember the Titans came out, and as I sat through and I watched this movie.
Do you mind if I stop you for a quick sec? I think your
Sure.
bandwidth is getting choppy. If you turn your camera off, it'll save you bandwidth. And so since you're not presenting slides anyways, so despite us not seeing your face, your bandwidth will be better for everyone.
Camera off, okay.
Yeah, so just stop video for yourself in the bottom
Yeah.
left. Perfect.
Okay. So I watched the movie Remember the Titans, and if you've seen it, hopefully everybody has seen it. Essentially, it's about who was a coach at a school here in Andrea, Virginia. It was centered in the early based on a true story where there was a racial divide, like in places in the states, and to help.
Chief Wright, we're losing you.
Okay, looks like we have just lost Chief for a quick second there. Trying to get him back. I'm thinking if he cannot join through video, we might be able to have him call in. Chief, I think you just came back. Can you hear us? Chief. Okay, guys, I think we just lost Chief. I can see him on there. However, okay, I see some audio movement, but we think we may have just lost Chief. We're trying to get him back. Please bear with us.
Yeah, looks like he just dropped off.
He might try to rejoin back. Hey, Chief, can you hear us?
Hey, you guys got me?
Can you hear
Hello?
us, Chief?
We can hear you. Go ahead and keep the video on.
Yeah, I got you.
Chief, quick question. Are you joined from two devices at the same time, by any chance?
No.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, it's kind of stuttering back and forth.
Yeah,
I'm
it's still
wondering if
coming a little bit.
might be better for you to
broken.
join over the phone line. Chief, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
We are sending you the information so you can join over the phone line.
Okay.
And you can just pick on either your home phone or your cell phone and dial in with that information.
Okay. Are you sending it via email?
Yes, we're going to send it through email. I can send it to chat also. The chat is a bit busy, so I don't know how well you will get it. Give me a second.
How you guys copying now?
We hear you, Chief.
We hear you. I just populated the Zoom ID in the chat, but I think it's going to flow back and forth. Do you have an email? Let me get it.
Okay, right. We threw
it
this
sounds
in
like-
on purpose to see, how our team reacts.
Yeah, I like saying they could hear me. Let's see, 929.
Okay, Laura just send it over to you.
Okay, give me 1 second.
So what you'll have to do, Chief, is just mute your audio on the computer device that you're connected to right now, and then just dial in through the phone line. We'll be able to see you with the computer and hear you via the phone.
Okay. I didn't get the email yet. Did she send it to my Gmail?
Yeah. No, I think she sent it to your work email.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have my work email up. See if she can just send my Gmail.
Okay. Chief, how's this? Why don't I just call it out and you just write down the numbers? How's that?
Sure.
Maybe
Yeah.
give that a shot. Okay. So the phone number is 346
346
248
248
7799.
7799. Okay.
The meeting ID, after you dial in, it asks you for a meeting ID. The meeting ID is 937
Mm-hmm.
4907
Mm-hmm.
2914.
Okay. Got it.
Once you get in, just let us know and we'll be able to promote you so you can be able to talk.
Okay.
Apologies, guys. We're having some kind of audio issues on our side. Do bear with us so we get this right. While the chief is coming on, just want to remind you guys, we have over 100 classes running today in our COA. We run it every Thursday. So be sure to go to our course page and just sign in. And you will be able to RSVP for sessions. We should have our session up by Friday lunchtime. We should have our new session up for the following Thursday. Our sessions gets filled up really fast. So if you don't RSVP, you might miss it. Heads up. Chief, were you able to get in?
Can you hear me?
Okay, so really quick, I had to mute you in the computer there. So I'm trying to identify which one is you. Is on the phone line that you call in. Can you just, does it give you a meeting ID? What does your phone number ends with? Let's try that.
Chief Wright, they just got your Gmail account, so they're sending it to Gmail now.
Chief, if you can mute your phone or take it off speaker so we can talk on the computer so I can identify who you are.
Hello?
What is your phone number, Chief? What's the last 2 digits?
My phone number is 301-520-0603.
Don't call that number.
Okay, Chief. Can you hear us on the cell phone?
Yeah, I can hear you on the cell phone.
Okay, let's proceed. Apologize, guys. We can hear you, Chief.
All right. All right, we good to go? Hey, Ralph, are we good to go?
Yes, sir. We're good to go.
Okay. All right. So I think, well, first, thanks to Rao and Daryl and the team for working through these technology issues. Hey, it's part of the process, right? So, and I'll actually talk about that here in a little bit in one of the qualities that I think we as leaders have to model. But I think I left off with how much I admired the movie Remember the Titans, and this particularly iconic scene at the water cooler between Gary Bertier and Julius, where they get into a little bit of a riff, and the conversation kind of ends with Julius saying to Bertier, who was the team captain at the time, "Attitude reflects leadership, Captain." And I've never forgotten that. And Remember the Titans went on to become one of my favorite movies, and that's been a mantra that I've lived by ever since then. So I did want to talk, like I said before, about the importance of us modeling the behavior we expect of our employees, airmen, service members, whomever you serve. And so this basic leadership philosophy is composed of kind of three components. And the first is that as a leader, I think it's important for you and I to set high standards. And if you think of any great organization from Next Jump to Chick-fil-A, Disney, Starbucks, and I'm sure there's lots of other organizations that you frequent or that you support that you would consider in that excellent category. One thing is for certain is that they have high standards. The leaders in those organizations, they set the vision. They ensure that everyone in the organization knows exactly where they're going. But they have high standards for performance, for particularly in the ones that I mentioned for customer service. And if you think your local Chick-fil-A. Now, the sandwich is fantastic, but the service is phenomenal. And I guarantee you that the members in that organization, they set high standards. Now, here's one of the challenges that you'll have when you set high standards is not everybody is going to want to come along. So if you decide that, hey, we want to perform to this level, or we want to go out of our way for the customer, or we only want to have a 7-minute wait time for customers, whatever it is that you might be doing. Not everybody is going to be super excited about the standards being so high. And so the second component of this leadership philosophy, other than demanding that, hey, if you work on our team, you're going to have to do it and do it with excellence. The second component is insist that people measure up to these high standards, because like I said, some people will, depending on your level of credibility, how much people trust you, how credible you are with them, they'll follow you anywhere. But my experience has been that most people will either have some reason why they don't believe that we need to raise the standard or we need to go out of our way for the customer, especially if what we've been doing has been working thus far. Some people will resist just because they don't like you or they don't respect you. But this is where the real work comes in for you as a leader, is not only having high standards of service, of performance, of what have you, but How do you get everybody moving to the beat of the same drum? How do you get everybody on the same page? And one of the things that I would recommend to you as a leader is practice what we call situational leadership. Because here's what you're going to have. You're going to have 3 or 4 different situations in the people that you might be leading. You could potentially have people who have no skill and no motivation. And this could be maybe a new employee, somebody that's just joined the team. They don't quite have the training that they need to be effective and reach these high standards. And they may or may not be excited about the job. They may have just come on board, still trying to figure out how much they like the job. And so that person needs one style of leadership. They mostly need training and support. But you could also have people that aren't really skilled but highly motivated. Could be same category, new person, just getting on board, haven't completed their training. But they are excited and highly motivated and ready to be there. And you're going to have to treat them a little bit different. You could have someone that's highly skilled and not motivated. They have all the training. They're superb technicians or customer service representatives, but this is just maybe a summer job for them or something that they may not have found their way. And they'll need a certain type of leadership. And then you have the person that's highly skilled and highly motivated. And that's the people that you can just fire and forget. And so I think it's important for all of us as leaders to understand and know our people well enough to know what type of people you're dealing with. As you try to raise their level of performance to this higher standard, you need to know how you should engage each one of those individuals. I would not recommend a one-size-fits-all mentality. If you decide that we need to extend our company hours or we need to reduce wait times, and you're trying to encourage and motivate everybody to meet this standard, you really need to know and understand where everybody is in their career journey and what type of leadership style you need to use. But I would say of the 3 components of this leadership style, setting high standards, insisting people measure up by making sure that everybody gets on the same page. This is one where you have to do the work. This is all the leadership schools and classes and books and podcasts and all the things that you read. Here's where all of those skills are really, really come into play. But then what I would say the most important component is exactly what today's lesson is, and that is model the behavior you expect from your people. And this seems simple, but I can't tell you the number of leaders who don't do this. And I'll be honest, there's been times in my career when I was probably guilty of not leading from the front, not leading by example. So you have to really, this is not something that you can just allow to happen. You have to be very deliberate about modeling the behavior you expect from your people, because sometimes as leaders, we find it easy to make excuses. Well, see, you don't understand. I'm the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, or I'm the CEO, and I'm really busy, and I have a lot of meetings, and the demands on me are very high, and you name the excuse that sometimes we make for ourselves. So I think it's important that you be very deliberate, and whatever you ask of your people, you need to be willing to do yourself. Staying late, coming in early, dressing a certain way, being groomed a certain way, how you treat your customers. In the office of the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, we have some pretty high standards for how we treat airmen, how we treat people, period. And, we demand of the staff when people come by to visit that everybody drop what they're doing, be as courteous as possible, make time, make the people feel at home. If they want to tour our office, or if they have any questions about the position or my predecessors or what might be happening in the Air Force, they become the priority. And I think it's really important for me during the times when I'm in office to do the same thing, to model that exact behavior. And I don't know if any of our audience has ever stopped by either when I was there or when I wasn't there. But hopefully both my teammates and I, we went out of our way to show you that you matter and that you're an important part of our Air Force, because those are the high standards that we've set, and those are the high standards that I hold myself accountable to make sure that I meet. So again, set high standards, insist people measure up to those standards, and that's where you have to do the work. And then, of course, the most important and vital part is model the behavior that people expect from you. Now, let's talk a little bit about some behaviors that I think are important for us as leaders to model. The first one is character. Now, I think we all have a basic understanding of what character is, and I kind of make it simple for people because sometimes we mix up the difference between character and personality. And for me, it's pretty simple. Character is what's on the inside, your personal ethos, what you stand for, your values. And personality is what's on the outside. And sometimes they match and sometimes they don't. Sometimes you have people who put on these facades. They appear to be one thing on the outside and they're something totally different on the inside. So don't be fooled by personality, but really kind of hone in on the importance of character as a leader, and think in terms of honesty and trustworthiness and service and excellence and all those things. I boil it down to this. I think it's important as a leader for you to be a good human being. And so if you're confused about character and what it means, just think about what it means as a leader to be a good human being, to be compassionate, to be understanding, to be kind, to think about, especially in today's environment with COVID-19 and this pandemic, what people might be going through, the challenges that they may be going through, those that are seen and those that go unseen, because not everybody is going to raise their hand and tell you, hey, I'm struggling and these are the challenges that I have. If you have the opportunity, I was speaking to a CEO yesterday, and they have this particular company has a policy that says you're only allowed so much 3 or 4 days of paid sick leave, and beyond that, then the company stops paying you. But he found it in the kindness of his heart to continue paying these 2 individuals in particular who spent upwards of 2 months off duty, and it was totally his decision. But that, to me, that was him being a good human being, practicing kindness, and being a person, being a leader of character. The second thing, characteristic I want to talk about that I think we should all model is attitude, and having a positive attitude. So here we just went through a little bit of a technical difficulty, and it'd be very easy for me or the Next Jump team, or even you guys who, and I know we have some listeners that are in other parts of the world, and there's 2 o'clock in the morning. It'd be real easy for myself or one of the teammates there at Next Jump to get frustrated, to have a bad attitude, to go on complaining about how this thing didn't work, for me to blame them or them to blame me. But I think it's important that in times like this, it's important for your people to see you cool, calm, and collected. Attitude is everything. You can't change, so none of us at this point anyway could change. Why the audio wasn't working. But what we can change and what we can really control is our attitudes toward this situation. Same thing with what's happening now in the world, COVID-19. Can't change it. There's nothing that you can do about it. Certainly we can all practice social distancing and wear a mask and all that type of stuff. But the most important thing for you to exhibit right now as a leader is having a positive attitude, because the bad times will come. Things will happen that will be out of your control. And one of the things that you want your people to see is that you may not have the situation under control, but you have yourself under control. And part of that also, I think, is being transparent. And so here's an area where you don't have to fake it, right? If you're not doing okay, you should be able to say to your people, this is pretty demanding. This is pretty draining. I'm not doing that well. However, here's how I plan to deal with it. And here's the support that I plan to provide each of you as we work our way through these challenges. So just make sure you have a positive attitude. The third characteristic I want to talk to you about is discipline. And typically when I'm talking about discipline, I'm talking about doing the things that I think all of us know that we should do. Wake up early, work out, be on time, all of those things. But as a leader, I want to talk specifically about the discipline of doing what we consider the most important work. And this is based on the Pareto principle, or what most of us know as the 80-20 rule. And what are the 20% of things that I should be disciplined enough to focus on that produces 80% of the results, as opposed to what many might refer to as the trivial many. And sometimes it's hard as a leader to find those 3 to 4 big rocks that have the greatest impact on your organization. And I would contend that requires a little bit of discipline. Now, it doesn't mean that all the other things that might come with running an organization, of dealing with a pandemic, or the challenges that we all face as leaders, it doesn't mean that they're important. It just means that you as a leader don't necessarily have to face to deal with each one of those things. And so here's the time where you have to be disciplined enough to know what things you need to handle, what things you need to delegate, what really, to be honest, what things you need to delete and maybe even stop doing. So make sure that you're practicing discipline as a leader, because like I said before, your people are watching. And then I want you to practice excellence. Ask yourself a question. How many of you woke up this morning and when your feet hit the floor, you ask yourself, hey, how can I be great today? How can I become the best version of me? How can I practice excellence as a standard? Because that's what people want to see. They want to see you and I striving for excellence. Many of us in the organizations that we belong to, like the Air Force and many other organizations, we have excellence in our titles. We have excellence as one of our core values. But how many people can actually say that they practice excellence every single day? How many people are deliberate about verbalizing, how can I be great today? How can I rid myself of average? And so here's one of the ways I want you to think about it, and something I want you to do for me. I want you to eliminate the phrase first from your mind, and then from your vocabulary, and then ultimately you can eliminate it from your actions. I want you to think about how often during the day you say to yourself, that's good enough. When you're washing dishes, when you're cleaning the sink after you shave or put your makeup on, when you're preparing a memo for your boss, when you are providing feedback after this session, or whatever it is that you do for a living, ask yourself how often you consciously, but mostly subconsciously say to yourself, that's good enough. And then I want you to tell yourself and decide that if better is possible, good is never enough. Don't settle for good enough. All right. So eliminate that from your mind, eliminate it from your vocabulary, and then you'll eliminate it from your actions. The great philosopher Aristotle once said that excellence is not a singular act, but it is a habit. We are what we do repeatedly. And in order to practice excellence as a leader, is something that you have to be deliberate about. You have to be focused on it, and you have to make sure that you wake up every single day when your feet hit the floor and decide, you know what, I am going to be great today. Doesn't mean that you're going to always achieve it, but striving for excellence, I think, is a great standard to live by. And then the last thing I want you to focus on as a leader, being a leader as a role model, is teamwork. Man, this is awfully important. I mean, I'm so focused on being a team builder and a good teammate. I try to use that term, and some people might consider it, hey, that's just a surface level thing. But I refer in the office of the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, there's 9 of us. And I don't refer to them as my people. I don't refer to them as my airmen or NCOs. I refer to them as my teammates, both when I'm present and when I'm talking to them and when I'm talking to others, because I feel strongly about the importance of us being a team, taking care of each other. What comes to mind is the African proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And so understanding how to be a part of something bigger than yourself, being humble enough to receive feedback and allow your teammates to give you feedback, being smart enough to delegate the things, because this will help you with the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, is being smart enough to know, hey, these are the things that they can handle. And so I'm laser focused on being a good teammate, building great teams, and helping all of us succeed. And I certainly, while I'm talking about this, let me just give a shout out to my team, Team 18, the folks who work in our office, and the broader team who supports me as the Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force, because I certainly wouldn't be where I am today without my teammates. And so, again, basic leadership philosophy: set high standards, insist people measure up, and then model the behavior you expect from them. 5 qualities that I think you should model: being a person of character, having a positive attitude, being disciplined enough to understand what are the few important things that you need to work on, practicing excellence every single day, and then being a great team builder. So I'll stop there. I know we got pushed back a little bit with some of the technical difficulties, but I'll stop right there, and then let's leave the balance of the time for any questions that we might have from the audience.
All right, Chief Wright, we've got some questions that came in during the session. We've got more coming in. Please keep asking your questions in both the webinar chat and the YouTube live chat, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. Chief Wright, I think the first one I'll ask from the chat is from Kevin. Do you have a story about a time when you had to challenge a peer, especially one in a senior leadership role, who was not living the standard they should? What is your mindset as you have that conversation, a conversation that many wouldn't have?
Oh, yeah. So I've had several of those conversations both ways, right? So I've had several conversations with peers who I didn't think were living up to the principles of being a senior leader. And there have been times when I've had peers that approached me that said, hey, man, I don't think you're on the right track, or that you're setting the best example. And I think my mindset during those conversations has always been, hey, I owe it to them to provide them this feedback, just like they owe it to me. And so sometimes it stings, sometimes it might hurt facing the reality, or having a peer say to you, hey, man, I don't think you're measuring up. But I think when you have a level of respect for your peers and your teammates, and you've built credibility over your career, those conversations are much easier to have. And on a pretty regular basis, you know, my peers and I, the chiefs across the Air Force, we're able to provide each other feedback. I have a particular, there's a chief, and I don't know if Terry Green, who is the Air Mobility Command Chief, is listening to us today, but he's been a great sounding board for me. He's the one who will call me up and say, hey, K. Wright, I think you're missing the mark on this, and you really need to message this, or you really need to spend more time doing this. And I always appreciate it. I think feedback is great, you know, right along with the, you know, the entire mantra of what Next Jump is all about. I appreciate good feedback. I once read Marshall Goldsmith's his book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And there's an entire chapter dedicated to, you know, how to receive feedback. And so I think that's incredibly important for us, particularly when it comes to not living up to the qualities or characteristics that I think we should be modeling as leaders.
Thanks, Chief. More questions coming in here. How important do you think self-reflection is when it comes to leadership? Self-reflection
is incredibly important. And one of the things that I think is important as a leader is not just self-reflection, but self-awareness. I think it's important for all of us to understand our strengths, understand our weaknesses, and work hard to become better at the things that, now there's two different philosophies, and I'll tell you the philosophy that I live by. I don't think there's a right or wrong. There's one philosophy that says, understand what both of them say, you understand your strengths and weaknesses, and then you should spend time working on the things that you're not so good at. There's another philosophy that said, which is the one I ascribe to, is that you can only perform, and you can only perform well from a place of strength. And so for me, I understand my strengths, and I spend most of my time, I would say I spend 80% of my time working on my strengths. And then about 20% of the time working on the things that I'm not necessarily good at. And it's all relative. So it depends on what job I'm in, what task that I might have. But self-reflection should lead to self-awareness, that should lead to self-improvement and development. And you have to spend some time thinking through this. And it's great, I think, to get feedback from your teammates. I think it's great to invest in some type of assessment, Big Five. There are tons of different leadership and personality assessments where you can have a better understanding of your emotional intelligence, your leadership, philosophy and thoughts, and what might ultimately derail you. But I would encourage everybody to spend a little bit of time on a regular basis reflecting on their own personal strengths and weaknesses.
Chief, okay, right. Can I ask you a question? There's a question here from Bryson Robinson, and says, in a time where in a time where we're expected to do more with less, how do you balance the human aspect, taking care of your people and preventing burnout, and mission accomplishment? And I'm curious not only how you would answer the question, but maybe any tips you have of kind of how you do that in your life.
Yeah, so first I would say, while I understand, and certainly Boogie, Bryson is a friend of mine, goes by Boogie. Certainly I understand Boogie's perspective is maybe a little bit different from mine. He's much closer to the action on the ground than I am. But I'll just tell you the philosophy from the Pentagon and Headquarters Air Force is that we don't expect you to do more with less. So we've actually moved past this idea of you have to do more with less. We've tried our best to encourage leaders at all levels to figure out those things that they don't deem important, those things that they don't believe add value to their organization or to their mission, and stop doing them. We've even encouraged them to be a little bit bold and stop asking for permission. Now, what I've seen during my time in the last 3 years when we've encouraged this is that some people have said, you know what, say no more, K. Wright, we got it. Things that we don't think are important, we're no longer doing it. But I would say the majority of people are still saying, hey, we'd like to see a change in the regulation or a change in the rule before we stop doing those things that might fall in that category of the trivial many. And so I tell you the philosophy and the strategies that I've used is, hey, let's figure out the things that don't make sense, the things that either we can't afford, the things that are dragging us down that aren't mission essential, and let's stop doing them. And in some cases, that meant, hey, we'll just ask for forgiveness later. I've always been, and I encourage you to be very deliberate and purposeful and thoughtful about it. Don't just stop doing something that you believe to not be important without gaining the right perspective, making sure that there are no second and third order negative impacts. But really, it's up to leaders at all levels to decide, hey, what are those things that we don't find important that we should stop doing, and being bold about it, because they're not always easy.
Chief, would like to stay on a little longer if that's okay with you. Obviously, we're scheduled till 1:45, but we got the delay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Super. Thank you, Chief Wright. Question from Brian. Chief, what is your strategy as a leader when you yourself fall short of the greatness you strive for when you wake up? What do you do when you have a bad day?
Yeah. So when I have a bad day, I go back to I think it was probably the first question that was asked, self-reflection. And I mostly do this through meditation. So on a pretty regular basis, every morning to be exact, I spend 5 to 10 minutes kind of in solitude, really just allowing my mind to clear itself and reset and become centered. And then typically for a few minutes every evening before I go to bed, I ask myself, how did the day go? What could I have done better? What should I be doing different? And I typically jot down some notes as I prepare my to-do list, the 3 most important things that I need to do for the next day. And I accept that like all human beings, I'm infallible. I may want to be the best chief, and I may want to be the best leader. I may want to get all of these programs and processes in place for the people that we serve. But I also understand that failure is a part of life, and it's actually a part of growth. And sometimes understanding that and being able to accept that you won't always, striving for excellence doesn't always mean that you will reach it. That's just part of the process. And I try to remain relatively even keeled. And those who know me will probably tell you that I don't get really, really excited about too much, and I don't really get really down about too much, just because I understand how the universe typically balances itself out. And so failure to me is part of the process, and I try to learn as much as I can and grow from the times when I fall short.
Chief, what do you feel is the best way to build a teamwork atmosphere when coming into a new position or a new organization?
Yeah, when you're coming into a new organization and a new atmosphere, the best way to build the teamwork and a culture that says, hey, we all matter and we're in this together is, one, be authentic, be yourself. People don't like fake. Everybody else is already taken. And people are pretty smart. They can sniff out when you're trying to fake it. So first and foremost, be authentic. Second, listen. Put your listening ears on. Squint with your ears is what General Goldfein and I, always say. You might think you have all the answers. You might think that your years of experience put you in the best position to make decisions and to impact the organization. But the people that have been working there, they have opinions, they have thoughts, and they want to know that you actually care about them. So not only put your listening ears on, but also be present. Be present when you're talking to them. Be present when you're in the office. And then I would say the last thing is, be willing to learn. Be willing to learn. Be willing to grow. Like I said, your years of education and experience, sometimes they count for something, and sometimes, frankly, nobody cares. Nobody cares what school you went to or where you worked prior to this, or what you've accomplished prior to that. What they care about is that you're vested in the organization that you belong to right then and there. So be authentic, be a good listener, and be willing to learn.
Thanks, Chief. In terms of setting the standard, the high standard, should a team come up with the standard, a leader, the organization, or all of the above?
I would say a little bit of all of the above. Like I said, I'm a huge team guy. So once a year, my team and I, we just, probably like most organizations, we get together and we have some type of offsite where we spend a half a day having fun, doing something, and then we spend a half a day working through, hey, what are our standards going to be? What are our values going to be? And I really, really value my teammates allowing me or helping me set the standards by which we want to live by. I just set the framework, and I say, hey, what I want is for our standards to be high. From a results standpoint, this is what I want to see. This is how I want customers to be treated. And then I'll allow them to fill in the gaps and decide the X's and O's and the ones and zeros of what the standards are. Now that happens to work for me because I have a pretty senior and experienced team. So I understand that might not work for everybody, but there's nothing at all wrong with receiving input from the folks that you work for to help you set those high standards.
Chief, what are your thoughts about followership versus leadership? I believe we do not talk a lot about the importance of followership.
Yeah, so I think followership is a component. I don't know that they're two separate things. I think followership is a component of leadership because we all find ourselves, to include me, at some point in our lives and in our careers, and maybe for the greater part of our lives and careers, in a position where we might have a leadership role, but everybody has a boss. Almost everybody has a boss, and even those CEOs or entrepreneurs, you might not have a boss on paper, but your customers, your stakeholders, your shareholders would be considered your boss and kind of drive your action. But for the brunt of us who work in normal organizations and we're tasked with being good followers, I just think it's a component of excuse me, of leadership. And I do think it's important. I do think it's important that you understand how to be, and this kind of falls in line with my thoughts about teamwork, that you understand how to be a part of something bigger than yourself. I think it's pretty important that as you're growing up and along your leadership journey that you have experienced, you have had the experience of being a follower, and whether it's good or bad, understanding what it's like to have to execute a plan or a program that you don't agree with, that you don't think will work, because then it puts you in a position to understand the folks who work for you when you decide to put in some plan or some program that people don't agree with and people don't necessarily think will work. So yeah, followership is important, I think, as a component of leadership in general.
It's funny, Kate, right? This is Charlie. I think we always share with people, once you become a boss is when you start to realize you missed the days where you had one boss, where you suddenly now work for everyone. So customers, shareholders, boss, employees. Maybe just one last question. There was a question from Letitia, said, what is one mistake you've made as a senior leader and how did you rebound from it? So maybe we could end with that last thought.
Yeah. So I would say the biggest mistake that I made, thanks Charlie for the question. The biggest mistake that I made as a senior leader was, this was probably 9, 10 years ago, maybe 11, 12 years ago, somewhere in there. I didn't understand the importance of building and maintaining relationships. And I had a boss that I didn't, so here's a great lesson in how poor followership impacted my career in a couple of different ways. Basically, I worked for a lady who I didn't respect, who I didn't like, who I didn't think was a great leader. And she gave me some feedback, and it was, to be honest, it was much needed feedback, and it was the right thing that she was telling me about how to manage a situation. And instead of me being humble, accepting and receiving the feedback, I essentially cursed her out. I essentially told her to get the hell out of my face. I didn't want to hear what she had to say. And in any organization, that's really not appropriate, but it's certainly not appropriate in the Air Force for someone who you work for and someone that outranks you. And because of that situation and some other misgivings on my part, but mainly because of that situation, I got a bad report. I didn't receive the appropriate decoration, we call it, award when I left, and my career got set back about 3 years. I was on a really, really good track to get promoted to chief at right around 17 years, and it pushed me back about 3 years. Very, very valuable lesson for me. Because of those, that was probably the most impactful 3 years of my career, because it forced me to do some self-reflection, to become more self-aware, to really pay attention to relationships. You know, I always say relationships are easy when you like each other, right? When you like your boss, I mean, it's great. It's good to have a great relationship. But I can think quite a few times when I've either had to work with someone, for someone, or had someone work for me that frankly I couldn't stand. And when I was younger, I didn't handle those situations very well. I've become much better at managing relationships and when it comes to difficult situations. But that was something that had a profound impact, not only on my career, and I'm okay because I needed the 3 years. I needed to grow. I needed to grow as a person and as a professional. But the mental lesson that I think it taught me, really being sunk to a pretty low point in my career. Really, to be honest, I didn't think I was going to make it. I actually went to what our military friends will know as TAPS, our Transition Assistance Program, and because I thought my career was over. But to this day, Charlie, I'll tell you, it's the most impactful and probably important lesson that I learned throughout my entire career. How to be humble, how to manage conflict with people that I didn't necessarily care for, and the importance of building and maintaining good relationships.
Thank you for sharing that. We had similar experiences. We went down to 4 employees after 9/11. I mean, we say how many times we had a plan that we thought would work out, and you learn the lesson in humility that things always go wrong. It's amazing the lesson in humility you get from those times.
Yeah, I also think it's just one other thought. I think it's important. I saw somebody saying, "Hey, thanks for sharing." I think it's important for folks like you and I and Megan to share our misgivings, our downfalls, the mistakes that we make, and be open about them. Because sometimes people, when they see a senior leader in any organization, they think, "Wow, man! In order to get to that point, you got to have a perfect career, and those guys and girls do no wrong, and they're so important and they're so special." When the reality is, we're normal human beings like everybody else, and and we've made tons of mistakes, and I think it's important for people to know that you can make mistakes and still bounce back and become the leader that you strive to be.
So with that, thank you so much, Chief Wright, for your time and for your insights and also for your service. Thrilled to have you here with us today.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. I appreciate it, and thanks for staying patient with me as we work through the technological issues. Next Jump, you guys are doing some phenomenal work. I haven't stopped talking about you since I came to visit, and I think I'll come back maybe this fall or once we get past COVID-19 stuff for an extended visit, and maybe early next year. But you could best believe I'll be coming back to see you guys once again. So thank you.
We look forward to seeing you again soon.
All right, you guys take care. And thanks to all the listeners and watchers.
And for all our participants, thank you for joining us too. We'd like to ask you, apologize about the technical difficulties and you staying with us, but we'd like you to ask you to stay on for a couple of minutes. Love to get your feedback for these sessions. As I mentioned before we started, we run our Community Online Academy every week, every Thursday. In order to make these better and better, we need your feedback. So I'd ask you to stay with us and please pull out your phones and give us some feedback. I'm going to share my screen real quick and kind of talk you through how you can do this. So please, for those with your phones out, you can take your phone here and you can scan this QR code, and this QR code will take you right to the feedback app, right to Chief Wright, where you can leave him feedback. I'll even assign the proper meeting tag, attitude reflects leadership. So we'd ask you to leave Chief Wright feedback. We'd ask you to leave me feedback too as a moderator, how I can do this better. And then also Raul, maybe you can give him some props for his great work with the tech issues we had. But we'd ask if you could leave us some feedback, it'd be fantastic. I'm gonna leave this up for a few more seconds. And then I'll also do a app demo. For those of you that may not be as familiar with the app, I can walk you through how to input some feedback. for you. So let me just leave this up for a minute, and then I'll come back on with a demo. Again, all you have to do is take your camera on your phone and scan that QR code, and that should take you right to the app. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see my phone. Raul, can you see the phone? Perfect. All right, so this is the first page. So if you use the QR code, that would have taken you right to the feedback page. If you're not using the QR code, then what you can do is at the bottom of this screen, you'll see a plus sign, the give button. If you click on the give button, that'll take you to the search page where at the top, you can put Chief's Wright's name in there, and I'll put that in there now. Just type it in, and Chief Wright will come up. You can select Chief Wright, and then you'll come to this page here where you can give the feedback, and it's a numeric grade 1 through 4, 1 below expectations, 2 meets, 3 exceeds, 4 far exceeds, and then there's a comment block at the bottom where you can put comments justifying supporting your numeric grade. We'd also like to assign it a meeting tag. This helps us provide context to the feedback when we come back and look at it later, where the feedback came from. So to do that, and again, for those that use the QR code, it would have populated already, but to select it, you just select on that field and you come up with this page here. And for me, it comes right up, attitude reflects leadership. If it didn't, you can click see more and type it in the top, attitude reflects leadership, and it'll come right up, and you select it and it'll populate that field. And if you could just type in your comment there to support your numeric grade. Remember, this is it's transparent where we can all see it, but it is anonymous, so nobody sees who wrote the feedback. And I will give everybody a moment here to enter some feedback. So if you'll please take a minute to do that. And Chief Wright, we'll make sure that we share all this feedback with you. When you're ready to submit your feedback, you just hit post at the upper right of the page. Really quick, if you're going to leave feedback for me, it's Daryl Platts. I'll type it in real quick. And there I am. And for Raul, it's right there is Raul. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull up the meeting, and we'll be able to see the feedback that's come in. So I'll select the meeting here. Attitude reflects leadership. I just went to the bottom. You see at the bottom menu to the right there, you have the meetings, and you select that, and it would open this page. And now I'm selecting the feedback, so you can see the feedback that's coming in for Chief Wright. You can select that here, and you can go in there and see the feedback that Chief Wright's received. And you'll notice the up arrows and down arrows here too. And basically what that is you can upvote some feedback, or you can downvote it if you disagree. So if you see a piece of feedback that you agree with, you can click the up arrow. If you see something you disagree with, you can click the down arrow. So there's your feedback. All right, so with that, everyone, thank you again for your participation. Hope to see you at other events today, at Community Online Academy events, or in coming weeks. Like I say, we do this every Thursday from 3 a.m. Eastern Time to 9:45 p.m. Eastern Time. So 19 hours a day. Hope to see you again. Thank you for joining us.